Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Luke with Luke F1 Fantasy. Back at you with another video to kick off the week, which is my Silverstone preview. So we have some team decisions to review from the weekend, which we will get into, and some team selections and some thoughts on some buy holds and sells as we look to the next race week. But as we always do, we start off with our radio message of the week. This week going to Fernando Alonso, once again, back-to-back winner, complaining of a hot seat while he's waiting on the grid, I believe before the second start of the race after Carlos Sainz stalled. So it just kind of gives us an indication of how hot it was actually there in Austria, especially down at track level, which, you know what, to be honest, Alonso, you are completely on fire with another 0.6 million rise and 12 points in the bag for a B tier asset in our team. So definitely a good positive hold. So definitely was one of the, if not the biggest buy of the week. So that one has come through for fantasy owners. Yeah, and as you know, I went with the Triple McLaren and Aston build. Definitely bought into the hype of Aston on Fridays, but they just didn't seem to show up again there on Saturday. But going into the race, I thought Fernando Alonso, very good race. He was obviously helped out by getting a lot of DRS from Liam Lawson in front, but that race pace that we all thought they were to have this weekend didn't really seem to be there at all during the race. He couldn't really sort of make any inroads. But you know what? Hats off to Alonso and to Aston for making that strategy work to kind of keep him there on a one-stop strategy. Which if he wasn't able to do that, then this Aston pick would have been completely derailed. So bring up the budget builder for this week, and in the Tier A drivers, pretty much very status quo since last week, with Russell and Piastri leading the way, most likely to get the 0.3. The rest of them, it's sort of quite hard to see how they would get some points, especially Norris, even 50 points for a 0.1. Verstappen with his DNF is going to start tumbling for a little while here, not able to sort of reach those 65, 91 points. So Verstappen should be off our team thoughts. Norris is just in our team thoughts just because we have owners with him, including myself, so he's here for now. And yeah, if the Ferraris continue to look good, then maybe there's an argument to start thinking about Leclerc into our teams too. Although at a slightly more expensive than Russell, it's going to kind of flip-flop probably each week between who actually scores more points than Russell and Leclerc, which probably determines who gets the biggest constructor points out of Ferrari and Mercedes. So this is going to be something to watch through the year for the second half of the season to see sort of what the direction of each cars take. Ferrari have obviously come with more of a larger upgrade package in the last week. Mercedes have been slowly improving theirs to date. And obviously we've got those temperatures, those hot temperatures that seem to affect Mercedes more, especially most Mercedes cars. So that's Tier A drivers. Tier B drivers, now this is looking pretty tasty. Certainly at the top of the list here, we have a lot of bright green and a lot of affordable assets that have a very, very good chance to score a maximum point upgrade, price upgrades of 0.6. Minus 24 to even see a 0.6 for Alonso, minus 21 for a minus 0.6. So these guys are almost protected from getting DNFs and seeing a budget decrease. So it means that they are just complete, that's a slam dunk. So Alonso, Bortoleto, Hulkenberg are quite literally must-owns in the game next week. They are going to get you 1.8 million in budget, pretty much. Nothing's ever a definite, but you know what I'm saying. And then we have Ocon and Behrman, who also are looking like at least they can get the 0.2s, if not the 0.6, as the Ocon the 0. So a lot of B tier assets. There's 5 essentially to sort of fit into our teams, depending on budgets, transfers available, where you're particularly lying. I think the Sauber boys are definitely going to be very popular, considering how great Sauber's inform has been, just completely just turning out performance of the performances. And if it's not them, I guess there's an argument each week as to who is the best fifth best team. Is it Williams? Is it Kick? Is it Aston? Is it Haas? Is it Alpine? Is it Racing Bulls? I think all of them are probably, aside from Alpine, all of them have had their moments this year. So the midfield is so tight, and they are worth considering, especially these B tiers. As we get further from that, Colapinto downwards, Gasly, Stroll, Hadjar, Lawson, Tsunoda, Sainz, Antonelli, Albon. These are primary our transfers out for this week, especially from a budget perspective. So one of these I may consider, which is Liam Lawson, who's sitting at 13 points. He has reached the floor of 4.5 million. So if those Racing Bulls continue to look good because he's protected from that price decrease, if you think he can perform out another sort of top 6 performance, then he's one to watch there. He could also be a hold for the extra week. So, in a sprint weekend in Spa. So, sort of just point that one out. But I think the majority of these, if we're thinking budget, they shouldn't be in our thoughts. But eventually, when we start switching to sort of points-focused strategies, we're going to have to start looking a bit more into these lower B tiers because, as we say, it seems like every week there is a B tier that is scoring more points than we think they are, but we just don't touch them because of their budget and the way the budget works this year. So Lawson being an example of that this week, and potentially Ocon and Behrman from last week, looked like they could achieve those pieces, but because there was better chances of budget gains from others, we kind of chose the green teams, the Alonsos, the Bortoletos, the Hulks, the Gaslys. There is some points to be had in that midfield, especially when it looks so tight. Constructors, obviously we have Red Bull having the DNF, not really scoring much points. So probably the team that's the least likely to score a 0.3, needing 49 points. So I'd be looking to move off them, definitely stay away from them. McLaren obviously going to be in our builds. And then again, Ferrari, Mercedes, definitely from a performance-wise of scoring, getting the budget gain of 0.3, they're both about the same. We're going to have to see what happens next week. Mercedes are rumored to be bringing some upgrades. And I think that's actually fair for a lot of teams. Silverstone tends to be a home race for a lot of constructors. So, McLaren, Mercedes, Williams, Aston, all the Mercedes teams have something coming. Kit continue to improving their car. Haas have some upgrades coming as well. And so, it's just going to be, again, very difficult to predict sort of who's going to score the most points. But from a budget perspective, it's very easy to kind of see who's going to get the budget increases. So this really comes down to where we want to sort of strategize and put our teams. All right, so looking into team selection then, so here's my team one team that I moved into last week with the Triple McLaren, the Double Aston, Hulkenberg, and Colapinto, filling that out. 2 transfers to use this week, so sort of starting off with, probably if I was just to looking to make 2 moves, there's not too much I can do, but I do want to make sure that Bortoleto is part of this team moving forward. He has to have a move here. And now I have the triple factor of the Hulkenberg, Alonso, Bortoleto, the critical budget builders for the team. So that leaves me with 1 million. Don't really have too much to move. Couldn't really do much with the drivers, So the only really move would be to sort of degrade down from an Aston into a Kit. I say downgrade, but I really mean, I don't even know if it's sideways. I mean, it probably is an upwards transfer to get Kip Sauber in. They are going to be cheaper. I'm saving a bit of money. But I am conscious about losing another sort of 30, 40 points by not having a premium constructor in, especially if I don't pick the right B tier constructor, or unless it's just a week where a B tier constructor doesn't really pop off that week. And so if I was to make 2 moves to get back into a premium constructor, it would be sort of figuring out who to sacrifice out of Lando and Piastri. Piastri is obviously the one to keep. That gives me the most flexibility in my team. But if I was to keep Lando for the moment, then probably getting in Ferrari, and then what that would lead me to do would be to for 2 moves would be to get in Bortoleto. But it would mean that I would be stuck a little bit with Franco Colapinto, who in that Alpine doesn't look too great. I want to be too confident for him to be getting price increases this week. He needs 7 points for a 0.2, 4 points for 11 points for a 0.6. So, and now he's above the 4.5 threshold. So he has the ability to lose up to 0.4 million. So this is kind of staring me in the face where I might need to do another week where I take a -10. Another one. So the errors are maybe just compounding themselves a little bit here. But I might be forced to just take that -10, take out Colapinto, and then see what else I can fit in. So at the first look at it, with keeping Lando in, I can't get any other of the other sort of like premium budget builders like an Ocon or Behrman. And so I could look to just sort of rejig the team and actually decide to go back to a more simpler template build, and it'll actually be Norris the one that gets sacrificed, keeping Piastri, and then I'd be able to get in Bortoleto and one of the Haas drivers. And so getting back to templates, but taking me a -10 penalty to get there. But as we saw this week, if this team's going to score 40 points more than the triple team, then taking that -10 to get here is going to be, a better delta against my own teams. It will leave me 10 points less than the most of the other teams that are running this. But that just might need to happen if that's looking like, if Ferrari are just looking super dominant, which they might do, then I might be forced to taking that. Now, what I wanted to look at was just if you were Piastri owners. Now, I actually had this in my Team 2, which my Team 2 has been interesting because I haven't really paid attention to it. I've just kind of been like playing along with it. But about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I noticed that it was at the lowest budget of all my teams. It had like 108 million. So I decided to just focus a little bit on budget building on this team primarily. And so crazy enough, like this team's actually got up to 114.3. So actually got quite a bit of budget gains in the last few weeks. And this team has been outperforming my teams in the last 2 weeks, which kind of goes to show like budget is something, having those big budgets. But right now with budget building and just these like initially bottom of the floor guys like Bortoleto, Alonso, Hulk, we kind of got them very low, but they've just been it's just been the greatest run in like fantasy B tier history that I've seen since I've started playing the game. And it's not just that they're getting the 0.6 million increases, they're getting double-digit points as well, which means that these are multi-week holds. Like, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. That's all I can say about it. So anyway, so this is the team that I actually had in Team 2 for Canada, and it was just a stellar team. Like, it had everything it needed, and I could have done this with my Team 1. I didn't. It was the wrong choice, but who knows? Maybe I'll just have to start focusing on another team right now just to kind of, keep me balanced a little bit. But yeah, this team, like, there's almost not much to do with it really, other than sort of taking out Hajar, leaving me with 7.5 million, and then swapping in sort of maybe even Behrman. So again, at 114 million or 114.1 million that this team has, or the budget that this team has, which is on the sort of smaller side, like there's no debating this is probably like the premium team for next week. Well, I guess begs the question whether Hulk, Alonso, and Bortoleto can each get double digits again to actually raise the point scoring up of this team. But I guess that'll be that's the difference, right? Like any week could happen where these guys just don't score any points, but we might be happy to get 20 points between the three of them as long as they get us like 1.8 million between the three of them, which is probably worth it. So that is the team. If you're a Piastri owner, I think you're just tweaking around the edges for your team. I don't really think you have too much. If you have the extra, you just have that flexibility. I think some Piastri owners are still on 3 transfers. Yeah, even this team, I have 3 transfers to use. So it does even give you that flexibility to be able to swap out into a Mercedes if you need to, for whatever reason. So again, very strong team. It's pretty, probably pretty certain that for Norris owners like myself, this is the team that we're going up against, and so again, very difficult to see where the huge differentials lie. It really comes down to Lando versus Piastri, which we've seen doesn't really tend to give a delta too much into a situation, with Piastri scoring just as many points as Norris did this week. So, I think there's a couple of chips we can talk about. I think we could talk about 3X. And I think we could talk about Limitless too. With Limitless, I think if you're already walking into this team, and if you still have it, and you're walking in this week with a Piastri, Alonso, Bortoleto, Hulk, Ocon, a very templated team with the McLaren Ferrari, you have assets that are all set to increase. We're going into Silverstone, sort of more of a lower overtake track. If we get some idea of sort of a top 5, a clear top 2 constructors, then Limitless is a play for this week, for those of you that haven't used it yet. But I will mention, this is the British weather that we're talking about, and it can be very predictable. There is some slight reports of rain here or there, so if there is some rain, that may give you pause for thought. But certainly from a budget pencil, if you're walking in with a sort of a full stack team of, those budget builders, then this could be the one for you. Especially if you are been holding on to that and you're trying to use it, then I think you have a good one to use it here. The chip that I'm thinking about using, if not this race, the next race, is the 3X chip. And I'm kind of thinking about 2 different ways to use this chip. I don't know if this is fully going to be the right way to do it, but here's some thoughts around it. I'm thinking about using 3X either at Silverstone or at Spa. And this will kind of formulate my figuring out what I do in Silverstone. Because I'm trying to figure out, do I stick with the Triple McLaren build, or do I switch back to sort of the Piastri templatey team? If I do stick with the Triple McLaren build, I'm trying to figure out, when do I actually get off it? And I'm kind of thinking Belgium and Spa is a team that I want. Belgium and Spa is where I want to figure out where my team wants to be. And I can either do 2 things. I can either think about playing the 3X in Spa and try to take advantage of the fact that I have the 2 best drivers in the game right now, which are Norris and Piastri. As the season goes on, if I start to build towards 4As, that 4A is likely going to be more of a Mercedes, potential Ferrari build. And that would look great if Russell, Leclerc sort of start to look strong towards the end of the year. But right now, if McLaren with these new upgrades is going to assert true dominance on the rest of the squad, then this might be the last time that I really have a Norris Piastri team this season. And so the idea of using the 3X chip on a sprint weekend, but more points are available, put it on 3X, and if Norris just sort of like completely just obliterates it, then, that would be a great time to use it, I think. The second place that I'm thinking about using the 3X chip is actually in Silverstone. And that would mean that I can get into sort of a McLaren triple kick team, not taking those -10 transfers. But I'll do this in order just to take advantage of the fact that I'm having Norris and Piastri, and the fear that I may not get back into this team again in the season. With the reason being that I don't know if I want to go too many more races without having that second premium constructor. And so it does scare me to not have the second premium constructor in Belgium on a Spa weekend. Now, why would I want to use the template team in Spa? Well, as we know, normally on a sprint weekend, what typically happens is our B tier, our middle of the pack drivers tend to score better, more points available, fewer more overtakes, alternate strategies. B tier drivers definitely perform better, fantasy points wise, in sprint weekends. And so the templatey team with PS3 plus 4 B tiers, especially the ones that we're looking at, like with Alonso, Bortoleto, Hulk, even Ocon, Behrman to some degree, like these are probably all going to be strongholds for Spa. All of them probably apart from Behrman, even if they get a DNF in Silverstone. So we're probably still going to want to run them. And, I've been kind of moving away from templated team just because I'm trying to chase a little bit and try to like get a little bit of an advantage. It's not always working out. The decision's kind of not going my way. But the Piastri teams are still seeing a green arrow upwards every single time. And I've seen 2 red arrows in a row. So clearly the Piastri template teams are definitely the ones to go. It just comes down to whether you can pick the right constructor on a weekly basis. Is it Ferrari? Is it Mercedes? Does Red Bull pop up from nowhere and just like spoil the game for the rest of us? And so, you know, the teams, the templated team still has points potential and budget potential. And it just might just be staring us in the face and just be like, you know what, just do that, and you know, take your -10, get back into it, and then reset for the sprints after that. So there's some strategy thoughts, team selection ideas. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on when are you thinking about using 3X? Do you think it's better to use on a Norris Piastri? Would you sort of wait later on? Yeah, would you use it on a non-sprint weekend? Interesting to see where you guys are thinking. And if you have any questions, let me know. Put them down below. Other than that, we will catch you soon and have a good week.